With speculation coming out, the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for a new head coach instead of Sheldon Keefe. We have one suitor emerging in front of others, and Easton Cowan continues to prove people wrong by winning this OHL award. We'll get into this later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to say to thousands of you watching that aren't subscribed, make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button. We'll be here all season long giving you updates from all around the league. But with that, we'll hop straight into the first topic today, which is Easton Cowan wins OHL award. Now, we did get reports from Chris Johnson today saying Easton Cowan wins the Red Tilson Trophy as the OHL's most outstanding player. The first member of London Knights to claim the award since the Leafs prospect Mitch Marner did in 2015-16. Now, obviously, we see the OHL Twitter account also come out and say, turning heads with London Knights franchise record 36-game point streak as of a 90-point season. Toronto Maple Leafs first round pick Easton Cowan is the Red Tilson Trophy award winner, which is once again the most outstanding player. Now, when you do look at Easton Cowan, he was drafted at pick 28, which actually was the pick that they traded Rasmus Sandin for. So it does help with Leafs fans a little bit that we get a guy like this. But just looking at Easton Cowan's stats, he has been anything but underachieving for the Leafs. He has been incredible. You look at his season, 54 games played, 34 goals, 62 assists, and 96 points. He was a plus 38, 64 PIMs, and in the playoffs, he did put up 14 points in 12 games. And just Easton Cowan has been perfect for the Toronto Maple Leafs. This was a guy that a lot of people said the Leafs took a stretch on at pick 28. There was one guy that actually said they took too big of a stretch, and social media kind of burned him a little bit after that. But just looking at Easton Cowan's stats and how he holds up in the record books for the OHL, we see him on the top. And like I said, 54 games played, 34 goals, 62 assists for 96 points. He was averaging 1.778 points per game. Now, some of the people on this list, not too big of names. I mean, you got guys like Doug Gilmour, who had less points per game than a guy like Easton Cowan. You have Connor McDavid, even though he was only 16, averaging less points per game than a guy like Easton Cowan did this year. And just like I said, Easton Cowan has been incredible for this Leafs team. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Doug Gilmour or better than Connor McDavid, but the Leafs have found a gem in a guy like Easton Cowan, and he's going to be a huge impact on this Leafs roster for years to come. And Casey, what's your thoughts on Easton Cowan's development?
I mean, what a year for this kid. I mean, the year-to-year improvement from Easton Cowan is nothing short of exceptional. I mean, going from 50 points to 90 points in 1 year just shows how much hard work that this guy put in to be one of the best players in the OHL this year and to kind of try to get himself into a National Hockey League roster. And I really do think that's where he put himself, because if he comes in to this Leafs training camp in the sort of shape that he is right now, and he plays the preseason putting up numbers like this, there's no doubt in my mind that he will slot into this Leafs roster next year. And I'm going to bring it back to when we had a friend of the show, Carl Cushman, on the channel, and he said Easton Cowan was a guy who was going to shock a lot of people this year. And what did he do? He went out and shocked a lot of people this year, and I think it's just great for the Leafs to have this guy in their back pocket now that they can bring in next season and just contribute offensively, because this is what you're getting with a guy like Easton Cowan. You're getting a pure offensive powerhouse. I mean, we see him put up goals, but his playmaking ability is unreal. I mean, there's multiple clips. If you haven't seen any highlights of this guy from the season, make sure to go check him out, because he has some great hands and he has some great vision that creates a lot of scoring chances for this team. And it's just great to see that, him prove a lot of people wrong. When the Leafs picked this guy, there was a lot of doubt put on him. And for him to go out and prove everybody wrong and just have an exceptional season, it just shows how much hard work and ethic and drive this guy has to be an exceptional hockey player.
Yeah, the big thing with Cowboy, I'm loving this villain arc, getting doubted, people saying this was too high of a pick, and then he comes out, proves the haters wrong, and proves people that loved him even more wrong, where they thought he would just be an average guy in the OHL. This was a guy that played on the top power play in London. He played penalty kill time for him. He bounced around the lineup. He could play anywhere within the lineup. And this was a guy that fought in the Leafs training camp to find a spot. Ultimately, he did go to the AHL, which I'm kind of happy he did, because this helps with his development. But this is a guy that we're going to see into development camp, into training camp, and maybe into the start of the season, where he's going to fight to make this impact on the Leafs roster and hopefully make his spot on this team for the years to come. And what your guys' thoughts on just Easton Cowan, how he played this year? Did he kind of overachieve what you're expecting? Do you think he did exactly what he did because you have a genie in the bottle and your wish was that he had 96 points? Let us know down in the comments. But with that, we'll get straight into the second topic today, which is Leafs coaching change imminent. And now this is a big thing. We see Sid from Sid and Friends show. He says the number of former NHL coaches making Toronto sports radio appearances this week has been interesting. The San Jose Sharks are circling around Sheldon Keefe. Now, the big thing is Leaf fans are split down the middle. There's no in between. You either love Sheldon Keefe or you don't like Sheldon Keefe. This is a guy that has been the Leafs coach for quite some time. We've seen him with the Marlies when he won the championship, lost in the third round, got called up after Mike Babcock, which is a completely different story Leafs fans don't like talking about. But Sheldon Keefe has been the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs for 5 years, and in this time, he hasn't achieved what people wanted. They lost in the qualifying round to the Columbus Blue Jackets. We see they lost in the first round, lost in the first round, lost in the second round after catching lightning in the bottle against the Tampa Bay Lightning, losing to Florida the following round, and then we see this season where he hasn't achieved exactly what fans wanted. And Casey, what's your thoughts on Sheldon Keefe maybe going to a new team, the Sharks circling around him? And would you be surprised if he did come back as the head coach again?
Well, first I want to say I missed the Tim and Sid show. I mean, that was one of my favorite shows to watch. But the Sheldon Keefe, I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see what happens here because there's a lot of speculation. Like you said, a lot of people love him or you hate him. And right now, a lot of people are hating him. And, it means if the Leafs go out, I think without winning a Stanley Cup this year, I think there is going to be some change there. Do I think Keefe is a solid coach? Yes. Do I think that his days are numbered in Toronto? Yes. Do I think that he could go to San Jose and really help a rebuilding franchise out? I really do. I really do think having, that experience that he's gotten with Toronto and bringing that to another team could really help them out. But it is the situation right now where, the Leafs kind of need something to give here. I mean, if they go out again this year in the first round or second round, I think there's going to be a lot of changes. And I think change is going to be best for this Toronto Maple Leafs club.
Because the biggest thing when you look at this team, they brought in a new general manager in Brad Treliving. When they let go of Kyle Dubas, you still have Brendan Shanahan here. You still have your so-and-so core four. But the biggest thing with this is you don't want to have to break up this core four without making small changes first. And it seems like Sheldon Keefe is going to be on the chopping block when the season concludes if they don't win the Stanley Cup. Even if they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, I think they're still going to weigh their options. Now, obviously, we're going to get in some options, and everyone's first option that we're looking at and we're hoping the Toronto Maple Leafs got was Rod Brind'amour. We see Darren Dreger come out a few days ago and said Brind'amour's future as a Carolina coach is up in air. Recently deemed closed, but it's believed the offer to extend the highly respected coach has been pulled. Sources say Brind'amour wants to stay, but has to test or may have to test the market if an agreement cannot be reached. Now, obviously, fans were hoping this was going to happen. They were hoping Brind'amour was going to hit the market. The Leafs were going to put the Brinks truck in front of his house, say, hey, take this money. We'll even bring you to Toronto in the Brinks truck if you want to. But reports did come out today, and this was just Brind'amour speaking to the media and general manager speaking to the media for the Carolina Hurricanes. Yeah, I had a great conversation yesterday with Don, and then again this morning. I feel really good that we'll figure it out quickly. Yeah, I'm not concerned. And then you see the general manager say they're very confident that both sides would reach the deal. We talked daily about it, and he said this to the reporters during a Zoom call when Carolina advanced to the second round. I feel very confident, as I've said before, this deal will get done, and Rod wants to stay with the Hurricanes for life. Now, obviously, with this report coming out and the previous report, it does seem like Rod Brind'amour is going to stay in Carolina. And Casey, what's your thoughts on him staying and not hitting the open market?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, just how good this Carolina team has played over, the last number of years, it kind of seems like they're always in, playoff contention. They're always in a series. And I think, they have some great talent down there, but having a coach like Brind'amour on the bench is really what this team needs. I really think he has the room and the guys really respect him as a former player and he knows what to do. There's hardly ever any instance where Brind'amour is getting out-coached really bad. So I think having him on the bench in Carolina is definitely what this team needs. And I think if they let him go, I think the morale of the team just would have hit rock bottom.
Yeah, that's a big thing. We see how much he's made this team, how much he's developed this team from young star power, bringing in guys like Jake Gensel. He's built a team that trusts him. He trusts the team. And I can't see a world where Carolina doesn't back up the Brinks truck to bring back Brind'amour. So Carolina fans are in the perfect situation. They're going to get their coach back. They're going to have him for multiple years. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the longest contracts for a coach in NHL history. I think the last biggest one was Mike Babcock, which we're not going to talk about anytime soon. But that gets into the second guy, and a lot of people were talking about this as well. So this is a interview from Breube back in just around Christmas time when he got fired from St. Louis, and he said it would be an honor to coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs if that ever happens. It's one of, or if not the best hockey market in the world. Great organization, does everything they can do to win, and obviously this was an interview, and he did play for the Leafs from 1991 to 1992. And this just continues on to his stats in the NHL. Now, we've seen him come up as St. Louis's head coach after they looked for a coaching change, which brought them from the last team in the NHL to winning the championship back in 2018-19. It was a story that no one forgets. It was one of the biggest Cinderella stories in the NHL. We've seen him continue on to lose in the first round, lose in the first round, lose in the second round. Obviously, they're out of the playoffs after making multiple trades last season, moving Ryan O'Reilly to Toronto. So he didn't really have the team that a lot of people were expecting to make the playoffs. But this guy is nothing short from a top coach in the NHL. Obviously, he was fired, but it's almost feeling like a Sheldon Keefe situation where, hey, the team was headed in a different direction. We need to look at new coaches. And what's your thoughts on him possibly coming in as a new coach?
Yeah, I really like Berube. I mean, like we've seen there, he's a Stanley Cup champion of a coach. He knows what it takes to win the big prize and to do it with that St. Louis Blues team, which we're kind of in the similar situation that the Toronto Maple Leafs were in. I mean, they didn't have as much star power as Toronto has right now, but he has, he used those young guys, a young goalie in Binnington who really made a name for himself in that playoff run and worked with what he had to win the Stanley Cup. And that's exactly what they did. They went on that big run. And I think just having that experience as a coach in the NHL would really help out the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know the Toronto Maple Leafs like to promote within, but I really do think now with Brad Treliving at the helm, there is going to be some change, and I think Craig Berube coming in to coach this Toronto Maple Leafs team is really what this team needs.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You look at this team, and I'm not going to say it's eerily similar to the St. Louis team, but you have a young goaltender, like you said, coming up in Joseph Woll. A lot of people like comparing him coming in this playoffs alone and saving a season, kind of like Jordan Binnington did. You still have some vets. I mean, John Tavares is almost like a guy like Ryan O'Reilly. You have a veteran center that's going to hold it down and be the captain of this team. So it would be interesting to bring him in, see can he change this team around, put his impact, especially a West Coast style, plus with the championship, would be huge for this team. And just let us know down in the comments, what coaches do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to look at? What coaches do you want them to kind of pick up? Do you want the entire coaching staff fired? Do you want Sheldon Keefe back? Which I'm sure a lot of people are going to immediately spam no in the comments. But let us know down in the comments. And speaking of comments, we'll get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. And the comments of the day comes from Matthew, and he says, "Come on, guys, subscribe and help out our hockey bros." And just listen to Matthew if you don't want to listen to us. But that'd be it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go down, leave a comment. You could be featured on the next episode of Hat Trick HQ. While you're down there, share this with your friends. Make sure to subscribe. You'll be kept up to date on everything to do with the NHL. But I've been Mark, along with my co-host KC. Keep your stick on the ice.